Hello everybody, my name is James Chase, and for the Drinks Trust you're joined today at the lovely 100 Hills Vineyard in the Stonor Valley. You're joined with me with the founder, Stephen Duckett, and I'm going to ask him a simple round of questions that have been submitted. So welcome.
James, very good. Yeah, welcome everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I thought I'd get from Stephen a quick run through of why 100 Hills and what inspired him to set up this most amazing vineyard.
Well, I think, a long time ago, James, this was back in 2000, a very good friend of mine, enjoyed fine champagnes for all of my life, served me an English sparkling blind that actually been made in 1992. And I was very surprised at how good it was. And over the subsequent decade understood that England had become the best place in the world really to make very fine sparklings now. The climate's changed, the climate here now is very similar to that in Champagne in the 70s and 80s. And the chalk that starts in Champagne and makes all those delicious wines we love comes under the channel and re-emerges in the South Downs and Chilterns and all over southern England. And so the valleys of those chalk hills are perfect places today to make some of the world's finest sparkling wines. And we also know what types of Chardonnay, what clones of Chardonnay and Pinot created some of those beautiful wines of that period. And so really the inspiration was the opportunity, partly because of the effects of the changes in climate, to create really beautiful wines in England for the first time, maybe in millennia, maybe ever, who knows.
Well, I've been so fortunate to try the wines this afternoon and to walk amongst the vins, and it really is a special place, not just from the setting itself, but the really passionate folks that you have here working as well, almost like a family.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it is a family enterprise, and I always say to the team here, this is our plans to create world-class wines. World-class wines of any sort is a 25-year plan, not a 5-year plan. It takes an enormous amount of care and attention over long periods of time. And I think that's well suited to being a family business. You have that outlook on time, which is a little longer perhaps than often is typical in the corporate world. And so we set out in 2012, having searched for 3 years for this and looked at over 100 different sites. Planted vines in 2014 and released our first wines really only 8 years after we got involved in 2020. So we still feel we're at the early stages. We've now 12 beautiful wines that we feel have been ready for release, and others that are aging away, and it's going to be an interesting journey, but one that I hope will take me through the rest of my life.
Awesome. Well, no, it's great to see. Certainly from a distillery's point of view, the last 2-3 years were incredibly challenging for a lot of businesses, not notably in the drinks industry, both from a hospitality point of view and a producer point of view. Have there been any learnings for you? Because I know that 2012 when you started up, but over the last 2 or 3 years, have there only been any big learnings that you've seen?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think in all businesses, as you say, have been challenged over that period. I think what it's really shown up is the need to be well capitalised, of course, but also to be nimble. And I think as a young boutique winery and vineyard, we can be very nimble in the way we respond to a wine into the wine market. Wine market's one of the most crowded, complex markets in the world. But what you know about that market is there's lots of people out there who want to buy and drink beautiful drinks, whether they're wines, whether they're spirits, whether they're beers. And it's all about, I think, in the modern world, being nimble, really finding niches that really engage people, provide them what they want at that time. And those niches don't necessarily last forever, but for a while they're very important. We've had lots of that over the last few years. And so a lot of those niches we've managed to find over the last few years. We did, like many others, we did some fantastic tastings online where we had 30, 40, 50 people
a few of them on Zoom.
enjoying our wines. Will we ever do those again? I don't know. But we'll find other things we will do. We'll engage people and engage hopefully at this vineyard. And, one of the things we have here that we love is a beautiful location to entertain people and to really show people the beauty of the vineyards and our winemaking capabilities here. And if you don't have that, you've got to find something else. So it was very much about being nimble. And I think actually in the modern world, being small, entrepreneurial, and perhaps family oriented allows you to do that a little more easily sometimes than big corporate structures where you've got to manage around a lot of other variables and a lot of other constraints. And so I think we've done a fantastic job being nimble. I mean, we launched our wines in December 2020, and just as one lockdown came off and another came on, and actually it was fine. We got a lot of engagement, a lot of excitement. People were looking for an outlet at that point. It felt right, even though in history it'll look a little slightly odd moment to launch wines. And now we're finally coming into a world where I think people are definitely ready to celebrate all those things they haven't been able to celebrate for a few years, whether that is weddings, whether that is other events. And so we're very much looking forward to that. And that'll be a whole different set of requirements and challenges for the team here. But I think if we can find really interesting places to engage people and to really provide something people want at any different time, that's what I've learned really over the last. That nimbleness and that adaptation, that entrepreneurial adaptation, is really core to all businesses, but particularly in the drinks industry. I think this is just such a crowded space. You can pick your niche and really engage.
And I think a lot of chefs who've probably done very well on social media over the last couple of years have always almost championing the fact that the closer you are to the source of your food and drink, the better it is for us in this environment. And the single estate approach that you guys do here at 100 Hills is probably leading the charge on that.
Thank you.
It's a lot of hard work.
It's a lot of hard work. We work very closely with chefs and sommeliers. I mean, we're fortunate our wines pair beautifully with foods.
Yeah.
And so we spend a lot of time with chefs finding fantastically creative dishes that showcase whether it's our rosés, our blanc de blancs, our preamble wines in interesting ways. So yes, that whole local provenance aspect is been talked about for a decade, but I think it's becoming more and more real. And the foods we serve here with our wines are nearly all locally sourced today, and we find more and more interesting and creative expressions of whether it's rhubarbs and gooseberries and beetroots and our own brissolas and our own, of course, cheeses, fabulous cheeses from all over England. So that also is a real opportunity. I think we're lucky here at 100 Hills to be at the centre of a very foodie region. We've fantastic restaurants all around us.
Absolutely.
And people who love dining, love cooking, and love all those things around that part of life that wine in particular feeds so centrally into. So we spend a lot of our time pairing our wines with great foods and enjoying that pairing and introducing people to things they wouldn't think of necessarily putting together, but do actually pair beautifully. Yeah,
definitely. Well, it's certainly a testament of what we've witnessed today and eaten today. There's been with every crisis has comes great opportunity, and so many more entrepreneurs now coming into the food and drink space, which is so great to see. Yeah. Often the younger guys love to learn off the masters, but from your experience, if you've got any advice that people coming into the great British food and drink scene, whether it's a restaurant or even a drink brand, what would be some of your kind of key learnings or best advice that you could give them?
Well, I think the last few years have shown just how volatile the business environment is, and perhaps will continue to be. And I suppose my advice for anybody coming in is make sure you're well enough capitalised for what you want to do.
Yep.
Whether that's a restaurant, whether that's a drinks business, whether that's anywhere in food and hospitality, it's no good going in with only just enough cash to make it through on a good scenario. It's such a tragedy. I've seen it throughout my business career for people to come up with beautiful ideas, work really hard, come up with great businesses, get them started, and then at some point they find they can't continue them because something happens that perhaps wasn't, as we've just experienced the last few years, wasn't obvious or wasn't explicable, and stops them being able to take that business forward. And that's a personal tragedy, obviously financially painful. Make sure you're well capitalised, and that doesn't mean borrowing from banks. I think really having people think carefully about the sustainability in a financial sense of their business is important. We think a lot about increasingly the sustainability of what we do in the vineyards, what we do in the wineries. Yep. Sustainability is very important to all of the businesses we operate today, but it also needs to be sustainable in a financial sense. And I think what you've seen in the last few years has it's been very difficult, and certainly nobody could have expected it, but I don't think people should expect it to be smooth going forward. No. I think that you need to be realistic about the ups and downs that you're going to experience in any market over the next few decades. I think we live in a much more volatile world from a business sense. But the answer to that is being well capitalised. You can ride those bumps. I think if you're in our business, which is sparkling and very celebratory, we know we have plenty of volatility in the fields, plenty of good years and bad years. Yep. We also know we respond to good times and bad times in the economy. That's going to happen, and you need to make sure that you can see your way through sustainably. If you want to be there for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, you need to think about that very carefully.
Yeah, we always work with a great Swiss importer who said, early ripe, early rot, and the
Yes.
quicker you can foresee long-term change is always so
Yes.
important.
Yes.
So on the other entrepreneurial side of things, you obviously need a great team to come here and to work for you.
Yes.
When recruiting at 100 Hills, is there anything that you look for in an individual when they're here with their CV on the door?
Yeah, look, it's a truism. I mean, business is all about people. All business is all
Yep.
about people, and Fiona and I, when we started it, worked incredibly hard to make sure that every individual we brought in was going to help build the culture here of creating excellence over a long-term horizon. And I think that builds on itself. If you get that right when you're starting a business in the early 3, 4, 5 years, it builds on itself because those people attract good people.
Yeah.
It's incredibly important. I think for us here, we've always felt that, I suppose inevitably, a real passion about wine. You need to be passionate about creating fine wines. If you are, this is a wonderful world. It has real purpose and meaning. The seasonality has a beautiful rhythm to it. We work in a beautiful environment, and we're creating beautiful wines, which we love, and it creates real purpose and real meaning. But that helps motivate you on the days that aren't perfect. We all have good days and bad days, and on the bad days, you need something that carries you through.
Yeah.
And I think that for us is an absolute fundamental, beyond some of the obvious. We like people to be self-starters. We like people to be obviously hardworking and integrative. This is a team. It's a small team. We like to keep the core team here quite small, but it is a team. And when we need something done, in the vineyards, perhaps we need candles lit on our frost night at 2 a.m. We expect everyone to turn up. I'm going to be there. Fiona's going to be there, and I expect the entire team to be there. If that doesn't work for you, you're probably not part of 100 Hills. Yeah. But if it does, that may well be the right place. And so we've built a small team with very distinct skills, but that works together happily. I was saying to you earlier, one of those little links are important. When you come in on a Monday morning at certain times of the year, people will be talking about the mushrooms they've foraged over the weekend. That's not common in every organisation, nor should it be.
No.
But here, or maybe perhaps in some top restaurants, it's actually a really important link to what we do in a different sense. I also think we just, we're not very comfortable with hierarchy here. People here are working, whether they're working in the vineyards, whether they're working in the winery, whether they're working in social media marketing. They should all work as one flat team. And that's, I think, for startups and young businesses that are emerging, that's actually very important. I'm slightly influenced by my experiences of US startups where I've been quite involved over the years. There really is something to that. Hierarchy deadens ideas and creativity and energy. And I think we've built here, I hope all my team would say, really a flat and very inclusive team where it doesn't matter where you are, what part of business you work in, your ideas are always going to be taken seriously and thought through in a serious way. And I think that helps everybody feel engaged. And again, on those mornings it's a bit wet and a bit cold and you're pruning in the vineyard, it helps you get up and know what you're doing.
Well, I think we were saying earlier, very few industries, unlike the vineyards or the distilleries, where so many jobs fall under one roof.
Yes.
And I think you learn a great deal amount from that. And kind of what you're saying is that those people need to be adapters, but almost learn from the likes of Dolly Parton, who said, there ain't no sunshine without the rain.
That's right.
You've got to have the both.
That's exactly right. I mean, one of the things I love about this is, I grew up in the English countryside. I love the English countryside. It's a beautiful place to live and work. But it's got to be real, and it's got to create real jobs for people, and it's got to create a liveliness of its own. And vineyards and wineries are fantastic for that. We've employed, over the 10 years Fiona and I have been doing this, we've had over 2,500 people work here, whether that's involved in building the winery, whether it's involved in working in the vineyards, but that's a huge number of people, and it's a huge range of skills, as you say.
Yep.
And so whatever your background, we've some young guys out there working in the fields now who are clearly destined for careers in farming and agriculture, love being out there, love that part of the job. Equally, we've got people standing in front of computer screens doing beautiful films and digital marketing. Yeah. Very much the opposite end of the spectrum. But it's I think that's very important. If the English countryside is going to remain a vibrant and exciting place for people to live and work, and we're going to see beautiful places like this develop, you're going to need businesses that really employ and engage lots and lots of different people. So it is, yeah, it's a super thing to be encouraged socially, I think, beyond just its products and its business benefits.
Yeah, and looking at the English kind of sparkling wine category as a whole, you know, we were chatting a little bit at lunch, but in your eyes, how do you think it comes together collectively to form a global voice? And
well, I think it's going to change a lot over the next decade or two from watching what people are thinking about doing and talking about doing. Certainly anybody who's thinking of building their own winery has probably come and seen 100 Hills.
Yeah.
And we encourage them to do so. I suppose for me, the 21st century model for England, it feels to me like the Napa Valley and the Sonoma Valley.
Yeah.
I mean, they generate superb high-end entertainment and tourism for San Francisco and Americans and people from around the world, as well as creating beautiful wines, carefully crafted wines, and wines crafted with plenty of technology input. There's no fear of technology, but they're still craft-driven products.
from the land.
From the land. And that's how I'd like to see England develop its wine industry. I think that's what excites people. When you see people come to 100 Hills and they see what's possible from a 10-year effort. Not everybody's going to start their own wine, not everybody's going to plant their own vineyards, but it does inspire a lot of people to think, well, maybe I could do something differently. Maybe I could do something in gin or spirits or in beer or in wine that's a little bit different, a little bit craft oriented. You know, I'm never going to be a great artist. I'm never going to be a great musician. Making wine is definitely the closest I get to art, and that may be true for many people. It's a very detail-oriented skill, and something that England, for the very first time, is beginning to offer.
Yep.
So there is a huge opportunity here. I think we see opportunity after opportunity for our wines in different parts of the wine market, and that's only going to evolve. So I think having something that's very loose, high-end, rather than more corporate and rather than more mass market is probably the way for England to go. Certainly if you look at the economics of land costs here, labour costs here, you know, this is never going to be Australia or South Africa. It's a very different market.
Yeah.
And the right approach, I think economically, has to be small, high quality ventures like this that are certainly above a minimum efficient scale to be genuinely commercial, but small enough for people to really focus on producing high quality crafted products. And that's right where the 21st century consumer market is. And I think that is hopefully the way England will develop. And I think, as Napa has done, it's surprisingly easy actually to communicate that sort of high-end vision, a boutique vision, out to the rest of the world. Everybody understands that you know, anybody who visits 100 Hills understands, I think, immediately what we're doing and how it is we're creating beautiful wines.
Yeah.
It's not a mystery once you see it. So that's quite easy to communicate. And I think we're going to build that sort of reputation for English wines on the international stage. Having a dozen 100 Hills and more would be probably the right way to go.
Amazing. Well, I know how hard you looked, you know, around the UK for this terroir, and you know, it's something that you're in love with, and it's a passion project that runs through the quality of the wines.
It's a beautiful place to live and work. The Stonor Valley's both peaceful and a beautiful part of the English countryside. And whether you're from England or whether you're from anywhere in the world, just coming here for an afternoon and relaxing and escaping all those troubles for the day, it gives you a memory that I hope you'll take through for the rest of your life. And you know, that life ultimately is made of those beautiful memories.
Well, last question of the day. Everyone has their desert island bottle of wine. Now yours can't be 100 Hills.
That's a shame. I have a couple of very good 100 Hills bottles it could be.
But we'd love to know what would be your desert island bottle of wine.
Gosh, that's a good question. I've been a huge fan of champagnes over the decades.
Yeah.
And I'm sure even on a desert island there'd be somewhere to celebrate. There'd be things to celebrate. There'd be, as there are in real life. Even if the harvests were from the sea, there'd be good harvests. So I think if I was going to pick something to celebrate with, I'd probably pick something of Aiguillorier's. I think he makes, as you may well be, beautiful vineyards in Ambonnay, some of the finest Pinot Noir grown anywhere in the world, and he uses those to make, I think, one of the most difficult sparklings I always find to make, a Blanc de Noir, a sparkling made just from Pinot. And so I think probably his Leclerc, which is from a little parcel in Ambonnay that I've been to on several occasions, might be the wine I'd take with me, so that when we had one of those bounteous sea harvests, we had something to celebrate with.
Amazing. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for your time today.
You're very welcome,
Thank you for the Drinks Trust, and I hope to see you very soon.
Lovely to see you.
Thank you so much.